Welcome to PBS39's Scholastic Scrimmage. Scholastic Scrimmage is brought to you by the members of PBS39 and by...
Scholastic Scrimmage is sponsored by St. Luke's University Health Network, the region's leading provider of medical education. For more than 100 years, St. Luke's has been dedicated to educating physicians, nurses, and healthcare professionals. To learn more, call St. Luke's InfoLink, toll free at 866 St. Luke's, or visit sluhn.org.
Support for PBS 39's educational programming is provided by the Deluxe Corporation Foundation, proud to support quality programming on PBS 39.
Scholarships provided by the Air Products Foundation. And now, here's your host, Joe Passetti.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Scholastic Scrimmage on PBS 39. I'm your host, Joe Passetti, and I still can't believe they're letting me do this. American writer and social critic James Baldwin, in his 1963 piece, A Talk to Teachers, describes attention in public education. The paradox of education is precisely this, that as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which he is being educated. We hear often that education is moving at breakneck speed, that AI and intelligent machines will render many of today's jobs obsolete, that knowing information, knowing facts, isn't as relevant as the process of understanding how to learn, to innovate. Knowing things does have its advantages, though. Teams of student encyclopedias can earn scholarship money on Scholastic Scrimmage, for example, or Jeopardy, or any other quiz show for that matter. But knowing things is critical to being well-rounded and cultured, and I maintain that what some perceive as mere facts are, in practice, the critical building blocks of being aware of how we're educated at any point in our lives. Awareness of the system requires a knowledge of its intricacies, and having factual knowledge is the best first step to fomenting real change. And so, let's see what kinds of knowledge the Lehigh Valley Academy Jaguars and the Freedom High School Patriots have. Let's meet the teams, starting with Lehigh Valley Academy.
Hi, my name is Yvonne India, and I'm a senior.
Hi, my name is Ashley Brown, and I'm a senior.
My name is Alex Schmidt, and I'm a senior.
My name is Emina, and I'm a senior.
Lehigh Valley Academy's coaches are Peter Schmidt and Leanne Whitley. Now the team from Freedom.
Hi, my name is Linda Mao, and I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Rachel Black, and I'm a senior.
I'm Billy Sweeney, and I'm a senior.
I'm David Shavliotosh.
And Freedom's coach is Michael Evans. Our judges for today's contest are Sally Campbell, Gary DeLeo, and Kathleen Steele. At the end of the season, the two final teams will win scholarships for their schools from the Air Products Foundation. To our audience, this contest requires rapid recall of facts and favors the resolute. Performances on this stage are not necessarily reflective of these students' academic experiences. And remember, it's always easier to be an armchair quizmaster than a competitor in this arena. We understand the rules, so let's begin the contest with a toss-up. What war of 1839 to 1842, which resulted in the ceding of Hong Kong to the United Kingdom? Lehigh Valley.
The Opium War.
That is correct. And your bonus. Pencil and paper ready. What is the definite integral from x equals 0 to x equals 5 of the function y equals 3? Alex?
15.
15 is correct. Toss-up is a video question. Your attention to the monitor, please.
What American composer of Manhattan Beach, the Liberty Bell, and the Washington Post was a March King who wrote The Stars and Stripes Forever?
Lehigh Valley.
John Philip Sousa.
That is correct. And your bonus. Ellsworth Toohey tries to ruin what character and architect who is the protagonist of Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead?
Rourke.
Prompt.
Tanner Rourke.
We'll actually accept Rourke on that one. It's Howard Rourke is the full name, but we will accept the response. Toss-up. What muscular sheet has aortic, esophageal, and caval openings? Increases thoracic volume by contracting... Lehigh Valley.
The diaphragm.
Diaphragm is correct. And your bonus. What Roman emperor's conquest in Dacia and Mesopotamia caused the empire to reach its largest extent under his rule? Alex.
Trajan.
Trajan is correct. Toss-up. What country, whose president is Africa's first elected female head of state, has its capital at Monrovia and was founded? Lehigh Valley.
Liberia.
Liberia is correct. Your bonus. The highest gambling revenue in the world is generated in what special administrative region of China that was once a Portuguese colony? Alex?
Macau.
Macau is correct. Toss-up. What currency, which was taken off the gold standard in 1931 and whose value was pegged to U.S. currency by John Diefenbaker, is known as the loonie? Lehigh Valley.
The Canadian dollar.
That is correct. And your bonus. What great son of Telamon and King Salamis killed himself after losing a competition for Achilles' armor to Odysseus? Alex?
Ajax.
Ajax is correct. Toss-up. Pencil and paper ready. What is the length of the third side of a right triangle whose hypotenuse measures 10 and whose other side measures 7? Lehigh Valley.
Square root of 51.
That is correct. And your bonus. What last name was shared by William Michael, Christina, and Dante Gabriel, all of whom were members of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood? Alex.
Rossetti.
Rossetti is correct. Your toss-up. What painting, which shows a reclining Diogenes in front of Plato and Aristotle, is a fresco by Raphael depicting Lehigh Valley?
The School of Athens.
School of Athens is correct. And your bonus. What Gurdwara and Amritsar, Punjab, is the holiest religious building in Sikhism? Lehigh Valley.
The Golden Temple.
Golden Temple is correct. Toss-up. What 17th century author wrote about an adventurer who rides the horse Rocinante to fight? Lehigh Valley.
Cervantes.
See, that is correct. Of the second period elements, which one has the lowest atomic number and density? Alex.
Lithium.
Lithium is correct.
Lightning round!
Before we began the show, the teams engaged in a coin toss. Epically, Lehigh Valley won, calling heads, when Freedom called tails. I'm going to give you guys two options. You pick one of those two options. Freedom will then get the second one that you do not select. There's 1 minute on the clock. Anybody can buzz in, no conferring. Okay, your two options are the Sun and British authors. You can confer which one you want, though, that's fine.
British authors.
British authors. Name these British authors given two works. Animal Farm in 1984.
Orwell.
Correct. Mansfield Park in Pride and Prejudice.
Austin.
Correct. Orlando and To the Lighthouse.
Wolfe.
Correct. The Last Man and Frankenstein.
Mary Shelley.
Correct. On Beauty and White Teeth.
Smith.
Correct. The Casual Vacancy and Quidditch Through the Ages.
J.K. Rowling.
Correct. Death on the Nile and Murder on the Orient Express.
Christie.
Correct. Middlemarch and Silas Marner.
Eliot.
Correct. Villette and Jane Eyre.
Charlotte Bronte.
Correct. Mr. Bliss and the Silmarillion.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Correct. Well done, Lehigh Valley Academy, on the British authors category. So, Freedom, for better or worse, we have the Sun. Answer the following questions about the Sun. 1 minute on the clock. Anybody can buzz in. No conferring. Answer the following. Nuclear process that supplies its energy.
Fission.
Incorrect. Heat transfer process that causes its granulation.
Pass.
Cool patches on its surface that have an 11-year cycle.
Sunspots.
Correct. Element that fuses to form helium in its core.
Hydrogen.
Correct. Within 20%, its age in billions of years.
4.
Incorrect. Type of large cool star it will become in about 5 billion years.
Red giant.
Correct. Layer below the chromosphere that has its visible surface.
Heliosphere.
Incorrect. Bright eruptions often accompanied by coronal mass ejections.
Solar flare.
Its spectral class, we're looking for a single letter.
M.
Incorrect. Within 2 minutes, the time for light to travel from its surface to Earth.
8 minutes.
Correct. 8 minutes. Okay, well done, Freedom. And we actually will be accepting your answer of 4 billion years for that, for the age of the Sun. Very well done. That's going to bring us back to our toss-ups. What company, which was broken up in 1911 after the Supreme Court held that it violated the Sherman Antitrust Act, was founded by J.D. Rockefeller? Lehigh Valley.
Standard Oil.
Standard Oil is correct. What former governor of New York was appointed vice president in 1974 by Gerald Ford under the provisions of the 25th Amendment? Alex.
Nelson Rockefeller.
That is correct for your bonus. Toss-up. A form of radiation emitted by black holes was predicted at...
Quantum radiation.
That is correct, Freedom. Your bonus. Omar al-Bashir, the president of Sudan, is wanted by the International Criminal Court for atrocities committed in what region of Chad? East of Chad.
The Congo.
Darfur. Darfur is what we were looking for there. Toss up. What country, home to the Buddhist stupa of Tat Luang, has its border with Thailand formed with the Mekong River and has its capital at Vientiane? Lehigh Valley.
Laos.
Laos is correct. Your bonus. What second most populous city in Colombia was once home to a drug cartel? Alex.
Medellin.
That is correct. Toss up. What author, who won a 1943 Pulitzer Prize for a novel about Lanny Budd entitled Dragon's Teeth, wrote about Georges Rutkus in his novel The Jungle? Lehigh Valley.
Sinclair.
Sinclair is correct, Upton Sinclair. And your bonus. In what error-prone process are known data points used to estimate a value for a function at a point beyond the measured limits? Alex.
Estimation.
Extrapolation. Extrapolation is what we were looking for on that bonus. Toss up. A namesake pump exchanges 2 potassium ions for 3 ions of what alkali metal that burns bright yellow? Lehigh Valley.
Sodium.
Sodium is correct. And your bonus, in June 2017, Amazon announced the acquisition of what supermarket chain, which was co-founded by John Mackey in Austin, Texas?
Whole Foods Market.
Whole Foods Market is correct. Toss up. In what country was the far-right PVV candidate, Geert Wilders, defeated in March? Lehigh Valley.
The Netherlands.
The Netherlands is correct. And your bonus, what author of the essay collection Shadow and Act wrote a 1952 novel whose characters include the black nationalist Raz the Exhorter?
Ellison.
Ellison is correct. Toss up. Which leader, who was assassinated by his bodyguard, Pausanias, during his daughter's wedding, was a Macedonian ruler and father of Alexander the Great? Lehigh Valley.
Philip II.
Philip II is correct. And your bonus. On January 27th, 2006, what U.S. company sent its last telegram after controlling the telegraph industry for over a century? Alex.
Western Union.
Western Union is correct. Toss up. What play, in which one of the title pair loses 92 consecutive coin flips, was written by Tom Stoppard about minor characters?
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Yes, fantastic play. Your bonus. The Spear of the Nation was a militant wing of what political party that agitated for the end of apartheid in South Africa? Alex.
The African National Congress.
That is correct, or ANC we would have accepted. And your toss-ups. What musician, who performed his song My Sweet Lord at the 1971 concert for Bangladesh, gained fame as the lead guitarist for the Beatles? Lehigh Valley.
George Harrison.
George Harrison is correct. Arguably the best Beatle. And your bonus, fewer molecules escape into air after adding solute to a liquid due to the lowering of what collagetive property, described by Raoult's law? Alex.
Vapor pressure.
Vapor pressure is correct. Toss up. What god will be killed by Fenrir, hung himself from a tree for 9 days, sacrificed an eye to use Mimir's well, and reigns over the Norse pantheon? Lehigh Valley.
Odin.
Odin is correct. And your bonus. What man who pitched a perfect game against the Rays in August 2012 is a Venezuelan starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners? This is a bonus question for Lehigh Valley, so. Alex.
Garcia.
Hernandez. Hernandez. Who's Hernandez? Toss up. What city, whose streetcar lines include the Riverfront and St. Charles lines, includes the Treme district and is the most populous? Lehigh Valley.
New Orleans.
New Orleans is correct. Bonus. What female photographer took the iconic Depression-era photo, Migrant Mother, showing her children leaning their heads on the mother's shoulders? Alex.
Lang.
Lang is correct. Toss up. What civilization, which used units called baktuns, is its base 20 long count?
Maya.
Freedom. Maya is correct. Your bonus. An Icelandic manuscript inspires Professor Liedenbrock to explore volcanic passages in what novel by Jules Verne?
The League.
No, not The League. It's It's Journey to the Center of the Earth. You were thinking probably like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, may have been, but this is Journey to the Center of the Earth. That's going to bring us to halftime. The score is Lehigh Valley Academy 440 and Freedom 80. Let's have a hand for our teams. At the break during each show, we like to learn a little bit more about our contestants. And today what we're going to be asking them is finding out what person, past or present, each of our contenders on stage would have dinner with and why. We'll start with Lehigh Valley Academy.
I would Abraham Lincoln, because he was an honest man.
Selena, because she's very influential.
Albert Einstein, because I just want to see what he'd have to say.
Barack Obama, because he is, I love Obama.
Thank you, Lehigh Valley Academy. And Freedom.
Grace Hopper. Oh, because she was an influential pioneer in her field.
I would sit with Anne Sullivan because she was one of the greatest teachers of all time.
I would have dinner with George Washington because he founded our country.
I would like to have a conversation with Richard Feynman, mostly because MIT hacks are ridiculous.
All right, excellent, Freedom. Thank you so much to our contestants. It's always an interesting question to get to know more about you. We're going to go back to our toss-up questions. What treatise compares fortune to a woman who must be beaten, claims it is better for a ruler to be feared than loved, and is by Niccolo Machiavelli? Lehigh Valley.
The Prince.
The Prince is correct. And your bonus. The controversial Fast and Furious gun sting was carried out by Arizona Field Office of what federal bureau led by B. Todd Jones? Alex.
The ATF.
The ATF is correct. Toss-up. What novel, in which the beggar Tom Canty finds his way into a palace and switches roles with the future Edward VI, was written by Mark Twain? Lehigh Valley.
The Prince and the Pauper.
Prince and the Pauper is correct. I love the way you answer questions. And your bonus. What man who killed John Comyn won the Battle of Bannockburn and was an early 14th century king of Scotland known as the Bruce? Alex.
Robert.
Yes, Robert the Bruce. Fantastic name. Toss-up. What type of organic compound, which is depropanated to form an alkoxide, contains hydroxyl functional group and includes menthol and ethanol? Freedom.
Gasoline?
Incorrect question goes to Lehigh Valley Academy.
Alcohol?
Alcohol is correct. And your bonus. What organelle takes proteins produced in the endoplasmic reticulum and tags them to be sent to other organelles or secreted from the cell? Alex.
The Golgi.
Golgi or Golgi apparatus, correct. Toss-up. What retailer, the primary sponsor of NASCAR driver Kyle Larson, features a money-saving app called Cartwheel and has a red bullseye logo? Freedom.
Target.
Target is correct. And your bonus. What river that separates Manhattan from the Bronx shares its name with a Manhattan neighborhood that is home to the Apollo Theater?
The Hudson River.
Incorrect. The Harlem River. Harlem River is what we're looking for. Toss-up. What thinker who posited the concept of eternal recurrence wrote The Gay Science, discussed the Übermensch? Lehigh Valley.
Nietzsche.
Nietzsche is correct. And your bonus. A blue and white wheel with 24 spokes called Ashoka Chakra is at the center of what nation's flag?
India.
India is correct. Toss-up. What cartilage attaches to the superior end of the larynx, protects the opening between vocal cords, and prevents food from entering the trachea? Lehigh Valley.
The epiglottis.
Epiglottis is correct. And your bonus. Pencil and paper ready. What is the cosine of a 420-degree angle, given that it's coterminal with an angle measuring 360 degrees less? Alex.
1/2.
1/2 is correct. Toss-up. What state in which Confederate General Albert Sidney Johnston was killed at the Battle of Shiloh was also the site of the Battle of Chattanooga? Lehigh Valley.
Tennessee.
Tennessee is correct. And your bonus, Fort Snelling, which was built where the Minnesota and Mississippi rivers meet, was built on a purchase made by what namesake of a Colorado peak? Alex.
Pike.
Pike is correct. Toss up. What book of the Bible, whose claim love is patient, love is kind, is often read at weddings in the earlier Pauline epistle written to a Greek city? Freedom.
Leviticus.
That is incorrect. The question goes to Lehigh Valley Academy.
1 Corinthians.
1 Corinthians. In 1796, Alois Senefelder invented what method of printing in which an original image is drawn on a wax surface applied to a flat piece of limestone? Alex.
Etching.
Lithography, specifically, is what we were looking for there.
Lightning round!
So since Lehigh Valley Academy won the coin toss in the beginning, Freedom, you guys will have the selection first. Your two categories to choose from. Very similar. National parks and breakfast cereals. Breakfast cereals? That was very confident. I would also do the same thing. Breakfast cereals. So same rules apply. 1 minute, anybody can buzz in, no conferring. What breakfast cereal has a mascot or mascots named Tony the Tiger?
Frosted Flakes.
Correct. Sonny, who is cuckoo for this cereal?
Cocoa Puffs.
Correct. Snap, Crackle, and Pop.
Rice Krispies.
Correct. Buzz, he is a bee.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Correct. Toucan Sam?
Fruit Loops.
Correct. Lucky the Leprechaun?
Lucky Charms.
Correct. Diggum Frog?
Pass.
Chef Wendell?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Correct. Chip, a wolf who tries to steal this cereal and adds?
Cookie Crunch.
Incorrect. Crazy Craving, who says, me want this cereal?
Crave.
Incorrect. I just said a lot of words out loud that I never thought I would have to say, including me want. Very interesting. All right, thank you, Freedom. So probably a less interesting category, but national parks is what we're left with. So Lehigh Valley Academy, you'll have 1 minute, no conferring, anybody can buzz in. In what state are these national parks located? Joshua Tree.
California.
Correct. Grand Canyon.
Arizona.
Correct. Acadia.
Maine.
Correct. Zion and Bryce Canyon.
Utah.
Correct. Glacier.
Montana.
Correct. The majority of Yellowstone.
Wyoming.
Correct. Great Sand Dunes.
Nevada.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Big Bend.
Texas.
Correct. Arches.
Utah.
Correct. And Mount Rainier.
Washington.
Correct. That is correct. The Great Sand Dunes was Colorado. Great. Colorado, by the way. All right. Very well done, Lehigh Valley Academy. And that's going to bring us back to our toss-ups. What country, the focus of the wet feet, dry feet policy, was the site of renewed U.S. travel? Lehigh Valley.
Cuba.
Cuba is correct. And your bonus, what branch of physics studies harmonics, vibrations, and other aspects of mechanical waves inside matter, especially sound waves? Alex.
Harmonics.
Acoustics was what we were looking for there. Acoustics. Toss-up. What man, who was Thomas Dewey's running mate on the 1948 GOP ticket, later became Chief Justice? Lehigh Valley.
Earl Warren.
Earl Warren is correct, and your bonus. Ellen Rosen escapes from Copenhagen to Sweden to avoid a Jewish roundup in 1943 in what Lois Lowry novel about the Holocaust? Alex.
Number the Stars.
Number the Stars is correct. Pencil and paper ready for your next toss-up. Given that x varies inversely with y, and x equals 2 when y equals 16, what is the value of x when y equals 4? Freedom.
8.
8 is correct, and your bonus. In 2016, actor Shamar Moore departed what long-running CBS procedural about agents in the FBI?
Criminal Minds.
Criminal Minds is correct. Obviously a fan. Toss-up. What city, where a construction project called The Big Dig rerouted Interstate 93? Lehigh Valley.
Boston.
Boston is correct. And your bonus, what member of the House of Capet who died of dysentery on the 8th Crusade is the only French king to be canonized? Alex?
Louis IX.
Louis IX is correct. Toss-up. What novel that ends at a lighthouse where John the Savage hangs himself and which depicts Lehigh Valley?
Brave New World.
Brave New World is correct by Aldous Huxley. And your bonus, elliptical and barred spiral are forms of what large collections of stars? Alex?
Galaxies.
Galaxies is correct. Toss-up. What cabinet member who required a waiver to be confirmed since he retired in 2013 is nicknamed Mad Dog and serves as Secretary of Defense? Alex?
James Mattis.
James Mattis is correct. Your bonus. What British author wrote about the disappearance of a 5-year-old boy named Harry Bertram in Guy Mannering, one of this author's Waverley novels? Sir Walter Scott was the correct response. Toss-up. What type of substance, whose name means I shall please, is often administered as a sugar pill to serve as a control experiment during drug testing? Lehigh Valley?
A placebo.
Placebo is correct. And your bonus. In what U.S. city were 168 people killed in April 1995 when a truck bomb destroyed the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City, Oklahoma is correct. Toss-up. What country, whose 2 co-princes are the Bishop of Urgell and the President of France, is a microstate? Lehigh Valley?
Andorra.
Andorra is correct. And your bonus. In SI units, the gravitational constant big G is measured in terms of what unit times a meter squared divided by a kilogram squared? Alex?
Seconds.
Newtons, or Newton. We would have accepted either one. Toss-up. What president, who released Eugene Debs from prison, defeated Democrat James M. Cox in 1920 and died in San Francisco 3 years later? Freedom.
Herbert Hoover.
That is incorrect. Question goes to Lehigh Valley Academy.
Harding.
Harding is correct. And your bonus. What teacher of African-American painter Henry Osawa Tanner painted a surgical demonstration? Okay, we're going to stop there. We would allow, if I had finished the question, for you guys to continue answering, but we will stop there. Alex, do you have a response?
Eakins.
Yeah, it is Eakins. That is correct. Outstanding, it is Eakins. Very well done. The final score for today's contest is Lehigh Valley Academy 775, Freedom 165. Let's have a hand for both of our teams. It's always a pleasure to watch the best and brightest showcase their immense talents, and we wish Freedom High School the best of luck in their academic endeavors. On behalf of Scholastic Scrimmage and PBS39, thank you for your continued support and viewership. Though they may be at times teams of rivals, one truth remains: you can't beat brains.
Scholastic Scrimmage is brought to you by the members of PBS39 and by
Scholastic Scrimmage is sponsored by St. Luke's University Health Network, the region's leading provider of medical education. For more than 100 years, St. Luke's has been dedicated to educating physicians, nurses, and healthcare professionals. To learn more, call St. Luke's InfoLink, toll free at 866 St. Luke's, or visit sluhn.org.
Support for PBS 39's educational programming is provided by the Deluxe Corporation Foundation, proud to support quality programming on PBS 39.
This program is recorded at the PPL Public Media Center at PBS 39 in Bethlehem.